It's going to be an absolute disaster for both countries. We're your largest trading partner. I don't want to respond, but we will respond like they've never.
Canada won't bow down to a bully. And we won't stand by as tariffs hurt our workers and their families. Trump wants us to lose our cool and to cave in.
In a striking and deeply symbolic display of political determination, Ontario Premier Doug Ford has taken an unyielding and defiant stand in direct response to the U.S. government's recent, impactful, and profoundly disruptive announcement of a new 25% tariff on cross-border auto trade. Welcome viewers to my channel. Please subscribe, like my video, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next update. This unilateral and
like they've never seen before. You need our uranium, you need our potash, you need our high-grade nickel. I will stockpile our high-grade nickel at 50%.
Yeah, President Trump is once again vowing new tariffs, this time saying he'll double tariffs on imported steel from 25 to 50%. The president says they'll kick in.
Unexpected move has ignited a significant political and economic firestorm, threatening to unravel decades of integrated economic partnership and supply chain stability. Ford has unequivocally declared his full and absolute support for a strong and robust Canadian response, a strategy which he believes must include the immediate implementation of forceful retaliatory tariffs. This aggressive countermeasure is designed with a clear and purposeful objective: to apply maximum pressure on the United States and to push back forcefully against what is widely perceived as an unwarranted, profoundly harmful, and strategically reckless economic action. The new U.S. tariffs, which were announced by President Donald Trump without any prior warning or meaningful consultation with Canadian officials, have sent shockwaves throughout the deeply integrated North American auto sector, creating immense uncertainty, instability, and alarm for countless businesses and workers on both sides of the border. The tariffs are scheduled to go into effect on April 3rd, with a phased approach that raises serious questions about its logistical feasibility and practical application. They will initially target fully assembled vehicles before expanding to include various parts in the following weeks, and eventually encompassing all auto components. Premier Ford has openly expressed his profound skepticism regarding the practicality and logistical feasibility of such a rapid and sweeping implementation. He finds it very difficult to believe that auto companies could possibly dissect every single part in an automobile by April 2nd, a mere day before the new regulations are scheduled to be enforced across the border. This deeply held doubt highlights the immense complexity, fragility, and interwoven nature of the North American automotive supply chain. Such a move, he suggests, would inevitably cause significant and widespread disruption, chaos, and economic gridlock for manufacturers on both sides of the border, making the proposed timeline entirely unfeasible and a recipe for economic disaster. The ripple effects of this action would extend far beyond national borders, affecting a deeply integrated industry that has operated under a free trade framework for decades and relies on the seamless, just-in-time cross-border movement of goods and components. The sheer impracticality of the deadline underscores the political nature of the tariffs, rather than a well-thought-out economic policy. The catastrophic economic fallout and a stark warning to the U.S. Premier Ford did not mince words when discussing the likely and catastrophic economic fallout from these tariffs. He predicted with certainty that the cost of automobiles in the U.S. would skyrocket once the new levies come into effect, a direct and substantial financial burden that would be passed on squarely to American consumers, who would be forced to pay significantly more for both new and used vehicles. Beyond just the increased costs, Ford also pointed out the potential for widespread and devastating job losses within the U.S. auto sector, a particularly painful outcome given the industry's historical and cultural significance to the American way of life and its role as a key employer in many states. He delivered a pointed, memorable, and cutting line, directly referencing a famous phrase of President Trump's. "I know President Trump likes telling people you're fired." I didn't think he meant auto workers in the U.S. when he said that. This statement serves as a stark and undeniable warning that the tariffs, while ostensibly intended to protect American industry and jobs, could very well have the opposite and a more damaging effect, causing economic pain and job losses that hit close to home for many of the president's key supporters in politically crucial swing states. Ford's message is a clear and unambiguous one: the actions of the U.S. government could easily backfire, harming the very people they are meant to help and creating domestic economic turmoil that would be difficult to recover from. In his public comments, Ford made it unequivocally clear that Canada would not just roll over and accept the new tariffs without a fight or a strong, coordinated response. He stated that a retaliatory strike is not only necessary for Canada's economic self-preservation, but also an inevitable and logical response to the U.S. action, a matter of national sovereignty and principle. He expressed profound confidence that such a move would make President Trump feel the pain from the American people, who would ultimately bear the economic brunt of the trade dispute in the form of higher consumer prices, reduced access to goods, and a potentially weaker job market. The Premier's resolve indicates a firm and unwavering belief that the most effective way to address the U.S. tariffs is to demonstrate that Canada can and will inflict a similar level of economic pain. This is a classic tit-for-tat trade strategy, and Ford is prepared to see it through to its conclusion, believing that only through such a demonstration of strength and resolve will the U.S. be motivated to reconsider its position and come back to the negotiating table in good faith. The alternative, in his view, is to allow Canada to be pushed around, which is not an option he is willing to entertain for a moment. Unifying Canada's comprehensive and strategic response. In order to present a unified, powerful, and effective front, Premier Ford has meticulously outlined a plan to coordinate a comprehensive Team Canada approach. He is actively seeking to speak with other provincial premiers early next week to discuss the new round of tariffs and formulate a cohesive, nationwide strategy that leverages the collective strength and economic diversity of Canada's provinces. This collaboration is designed to ensure that the Canadian response is not fragmented, but rather a single, coordinated, and impactful effort that maximizes its pressure on the U.S. and minimizes potential harm to domestic industries. Additionally, he plans to request a meeting with all Canadian CEOs and presidents of the auto sector to bring their invaluable expertise, logistical knowledge, and industry-specific insights to the table. This move underscores the serious and unprecedented nature of the situation and the critical need for a collaborative, cross-sector effort to effectively counter the U.S. trade action. By bringing together both political leaders and corporate giants, Ford aims to create a strategy that is not only politically sound and popular with the public, but also economically viable, strategically intelligent, and capable of withstanding a prolonged trade conflict. This multi-pronged approach demonstrates a deep understanding of the gravity of the situation. Ford has already taken the crucial first step toward a coordinated response by engaging directly with the federal government, having spoken with Prime Minister Mark Carney. In that pivotal conversation, he urged Carney to target American cars as a core part of the federal response. Ford's rationale is that Canada has significant and powerful leverage in this specific area, noting that the auto trade between the two countries is remarkably balanced, creating a rare symmetrical vulnerability that can be exploited. He emphasized, "We buy as many cars off the U.S. as we sell down there," suggesting that a targeted Canadian tariff could have a symmetrical and powerful impact on the U.S. economy, essentially returning the favor in kind and creating a mirror image of the U.S. action. This targeted approach, he believes, would inflict significant pain on the U.S. without overly harming Canadian consumers or other sectors of the economy. When questioned about the possibility of an even more aggressive retaliatory electricity tariff, the Premier adopted a more measured and cautious tone, stating he would wait to see what happens on April 2nd before making a final and conclusive decision on that particular measure. This demonstrates that while he is prepared for a strong and decisive response, he is also willing to be strategic and wait for the full scope of the U.S. actions to become clear, ensuring any response is proportional, effective, and serves Canada's long-term economic interests. The situation remains fluid, And Ford's approach reflects a need for both decisive action and careful deliberation in the face of a complex international challenge.